Hello, early friends! Today I'm going to be going over my 1.5 tips for writing hard-hitting or heavy-hitting stuff. But before I go anywhere, allow me to open up by giving you the formal disclaimer that the following is merely just my advice, my opinion, and what works for me. Don't take it as gospel, instead take it as the ramblings of a person who almost nailed that line on the first go, but sadly did not make it all the way. Watch the lines out of the way. Let's actually jump into the meat and potatoes of this conversation. I get messages like this all the time. Like, people ask me, Max, I want to write an emotional scene. Max, I want to write a hard-hitting scene. Max, I want to write a dramatic scene. And all of those questions are always punctuated by one particular phrase. But I don't want to be too sappy. But I don't want to be too dramatic. But I don't want to be X, Y, Z, the rest of the alphabet in reverse order. There is one particular proverb that I keep coming back to time and time again, and I've been using it for this particular issue, and for a couple of issues related to character and particular plot-related elements, but when it comes to writing, I think that this proverb really does help. And the proverb goes a little bit like this, okay? You can't cook rice with lukewarm water. You can only cook rice with boiling water. People tell me, Max, I want to write a really sad scene, like heavy-hitting scene, but I don't want to be depressing. Or like, I want to write a romantic scene between these two characters who are fated to be together, but I don't want to be too sappy. And whenever I get questions like this, I have to stop myself and think and wonder what exactly is the piece of advice that I want to give people. Because a part of me is like, you know, why is it not okay to write a story that is happy? Why is it not okay to write a story that is sad or depressing or any other, like, dramatic extent of an emotion? And I think that is mostly because of a system of expectations, you know, because like, you don't want people to say this story is to X or Y or Z or the rest of the alphabet in reverse order. That's a joke now, but, and it's weird because as I've mentioned in the past, your reader's reaction is entirely 110 million% out of your control. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking. You may be like looking at what I just said and be thinking to yourselves, well, Max, you're telling me that my reader's reaction is out of my hands, so how then can I go about writing something that will linger with them, something that they will remember for years? Let me tell you how you go about doing that. In my personal opinion, it's not so much about tips and tricks, but rather writing the story as it comes to you, uncensored. Never, ever, during the first draft, change anything in your story or second guess anything in your story because it's too sappy, too depressing, too of any dramatical emotion. It took me a really long time to grasp this, and it's not only the idea of not censoring your story, which I don't think you should ever do. You should write the story as it comes to you, and you should be true to the story that chose you to write it. But aside from that, it's also the idea that every reader is differently. And every reader is out looking for something. And not only that, because some of you may be hearing that, you may be thinking to yourselves, okay, I'm going to aim for a particular reader. But every person is going through their own particular struggles. And in my personal history, books have been the place where I found healing and I found respite through the moments in my life where I was uncertain. And you may be thinking to yourselves, okay, yeah, that's really pretty, but so what? It's the idea of this, okay? I want you to write your story how it comes to you. Uncensored and however dramatical or sappy or depressing that it needs to be, because someone who's reading your story in a moment where they're looking for something like that, it will resonate with them. Why? Because if a person is in a moment in their lives when they're looking for something that is sappy, for something that is depressing, for something that is whatever emotion they're looking for, if you give them that emotion, they will connect with your story. It will resonate with them because it is exactly what they're looking for. It is exactly what they can relate to. Now, some people out there say that, you know, you want everyone to enjoy your book. And I understand that sentiment. I absolutely do. In my personal opinion, though, I would rather one person fall in love with my book, one person find the answer to whatever they're looking for in my book, than 1 million people thought it was okay. Or rather, I would rather serve you one bowl of perfect rice than 10,000 bowls of crappy rice. Half-cooked, crappy rice. Again, I totally get it. This may be something that divides a lot of people, and that's entirely understandable. We're in a craft where no one is master, and when there are hardly any objective rules to go about doing things. In my personal opinion, though, I think that you should be true to your story and write it however it comes to you. Whether it is dramatic or not dramatic, whether it is sad, super depressing, or somewhere in between. Write the story however it comes to you. I feel that if you're writing the story that you're meant to write and you're being true to the story and you're going all the way and you're not censoring it or surrendering any part of the story to be true to it, I think everything turns out fine. I really do think so. And yes, it's true, you may not write something that everyone is going to adore, but then again, does everyone adore the same thing? I don't think so. I think that everyone goes into books looking for something different, whether it is escapism or healing or everything else in between. Everyone goes into every book differently, and that is kind of the uncontrollable measure of our medium, you know? You don't get to know your audience before selling it to them because your audience can be anybody. Anyone can read books, and it's a little bit strange and weird and kind of daunting. And if anything, I want you to go out there and just write the story that comes to you fearlessly. I don't think that writing hard-hitting or heavy-hitting stuff is about techniques or plot devices. It's ultimately, for me, about emotion. About uncensored emotion. Emotion that is dramatical, emotion that is human, because ultimately life can be pretty dramatic, and I found in my experience that when I felt depressed or sad, I reach for stories that are depressing and sad so that my own feelings may not be so personal, so that I can see through other people's point of view who are dealing with the same thing. And likewise, when I felt happy, I want to reach for stories that are happy so that I can feel the same joy as well, to know that I am not the only person who feels this way. But that is just the way I feel about things. Again, write without censoring yourself, write without fear, without doubt, create the story, the truest story you can tell. But all of that being said, of course, this is actually only my half tip. This is actually like the half of the 0.5 of this video. My formal tip for writing hard-hitting stuff goes a little bit like this. Everyone, chant along with me. Revision, revision, revision. Write the book first. Let it sit for a while, and come back to it as though you're a new person. Read through your story again and check if the stuff you wrote was actually indeed heavy-hitting. It's actually as simple as that. I've talked about this forever. If you've been following my blog or this channel, you know how I feel about things. Revision is your friend. And trust me, how your story looks like in the first draft doesn't really matter because people are not going to see your first draft. You're going to revise it and then you're going to share it with the world later. There's time to make that story perfect. And as a little bit of a side note, remember, feedback is your friend. Once you write the first draft, let it sit, revise it. You can, consider sharing it with a particular group of friends or people whose opinion you respect, and see, I'll make it really clear in the questions because, I like to give my beta readers always questions so they know what I'm looking for, and ask them, was this particular scene heavy-hitting? Do you think that, it resonated emotionally with you? And once again, in summary, my tips for writing hard-hitting stuff go a little bit like this. First and above everything else has got to be, don't censor yourself. And my formal tip for writing hard-hitting stuff is revision. Revise, revise, revise. Your revision is your friend. And if need be, ask for feedback, share with some friends, and see what they think. I hope that helps, and I hope that if anything, I've given you another point of view on this issue. With all that said though, subscribe, do all the socially related things, and if you would like even more writing advice, you can head over to my official writing blog over at maxkirin.tumblr.com. Thank you for watching, thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me, and I'll be seeing you soon! Mwah.